What's going on, guys? Back here again with some more V8 RX7 news, information, things going on today. A lot of good news, a lot of stuff I already got and I'm ready to put into the car today, and we're gonna work on doing today. So as you can see, very rainy, very wet outside. Can't really pull the Crown Vic out, so it's gonna be a little tight for a little bit. All right, so far I've got a throttle return spring with the bracket. These are just the Advanced Auto Specials, and as you can see, I have a bungee cord holding that, but it works, so I mean, I couldn't really complain about that. Next thing that I have over here is the shifter on the transmission. I didn't really talk about this before, but these things are like gold, literally. You can't find them anywhere. You physically have to know what you're looking for, because this one is the one I thought we could use on this one, and it's not. These are just two different years altogether. Same transmission, just two different years, two different designs. That was the problem. This shifter actually came out of a Ram 1500. So that was the only one I could find. I got lucky and found it, and it worked. So we're going to have to redesign the shifter inside the car, because this was my original design that I was going to use, and it went on like that and worked. It won't work anymore, as this is a different one, but we're going to see what we can do. I also just got this little Datsun valve cover too today while I was out. But as you can see, I got a lot to do today. Once I get the transmission in, then we can start working on maybe seeing if that radiator back there will work, or what kind of radiator I need to get for this setup. But let's get to it. Alright, I got this spring put on, and again, it's not really like, I don't know, it's not something I really kind of like, but I guess it'll work. Yeah, I guess it brings it back pretty good, but I guess it'll work for what I'm doing. The only other thing I gotta work on now is this throttle cable. I need a C-clip to hold that on. And I've known I needed that for a while, but it's not really affecting much. I need to tighten that too. That shouldn't be moving. I got this wiring mess too. But yeah, that's another thing done on the list. Looks like next we'll work on getting this transmission pulled out. And I forgot to mention, I also got this drive shaft from another truck, but I only need the slip yoke here off the end to try and have this custom made onto the drive shaft that's underneath the RX7, which needs to come out also. Just another one of those things I haven't done because it really wasn't important at the time, because the car has been basically sitting at this spot since I put it in the garage and started tearing it down. I haven't pulled it out or anything, so I don't even have the tools to take this drive shaft apart. I assume if I take these clips out, I might be able to shimmy it one way or another, get the slip yoke out. But other than that, I just gotta get this transmission moved out of here, get the mounting bracket put onto this transmission, and then work on getting it put underneath the car and put up onto the motor, which once I get it put onto the motor, it'll actually help with the tilting and shaking that the motor does too. And then I can work on making my new shifter. Now I just want to say, coming from Ohio down to South Carolina, there's been a lot of cultural shock changes for me. One of the things that I absolutely love about being down here is the corrosion. Now, this dry shaft, yeah, I get it. It looks a little rusty. I think the guy had it sitting in the bed of the truck since he pulled it apart. But let me just tell you that I just pulled all four of these clips out with no trouble at all. I did it with a pair of pliers here, and I was able to get all four of them out. Now, for me to be able to get this U-joint out of here, that may be another story, because you're supposed to press them out, but I know I'm going to replace it anyways, so I may just get a socket and beat it out, which would be a lot easier on me. Let me time lapse it because it'll be a lot easier. Now, as you guys can see, that was not a very long time lapse. That was actually really easy for that to come out, which really helps me a lot because now I can put this into the back of the transmission like that. And now I can easily put the transmission into the car, and I'm able to start it up and not have to worry about anything coming out of the back here. Yeah, this thing's gonna be spinning around, but how often are you gonna be down right near this? And this spinning around is not really that big compared to everything else that spins on the transmission anyways. So I'm not too worried about that. I don't even know if there's any fluid in this transmission. I'm actually going to assume that there's none and open the drain and let it drain out and refill it from the top here at the shifter whenever I am ready to actually start it up again. Like I said though, I have no clutch ability because I don't have a line for this. So I'm gonna have to get a line for that. But right now I'm going to actually get my bracket off of there, clean it up. I don't think I'm actually gonna spray it today because it's a little humid out. I don't think it's gonna come out right. I don't even know if, I think I only have like some blue and some white spray paint anyways. So I like everything flat black. I really like flat black on my parts like that. So I'm not gonna do that today. So I'm actually just gonna get that taken off, put on here, get this mount off too, and then take this back off because I have to put that on when I'm putting it into the car. So we'll do that, and then we're gonna get her moved over and get her ready to be put onto the back of the engine, and then put her up, and it'll be able to sit on its own without having a jack holding it. Saw there in that time lapse, I kind of made a mistake. Blame it on myself. I used the impact. I shouldn't have used the impact. I should make sure my bolt was a little more lined up than what it was, and one of the bolts went a little cross. And the thing is, I'm just trying to use the OEM bolts, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to now. I do have some grade 8 bolts that I was using for the old transmission, the old mount, because I didn't have these bolts before. But I messed up. It's my mistake. Take it from me. Don't impact things. Make sure you get it down as tight as you can before you impact anything. It's my fault. That's a good life lesson for anybody. But I think the best way for me to fix this and move forward is going to be for me to actually put the transmission in the car and have it up on a jack there where I can easily access that hole, and I'll be able to rethread it that way. So Wow, that took me a lot longer than it really should have. The problem I ran into is there's a pilot bushing that goes inside of the crankshaft. I think when I first put it in, I didn't hammer it all the way back. So I was fighting that bushing at first. So within the process of moving the engine up, down, transmission up, down, and out, it finally synced in. New day, new tackle at this again. I got the transmission in there, I got the shifter in there, I got everything clearanced so that it fits up in there really well. As you can see, you have to do a remote shifter because transmission comes through up in there. This is the remote shifter. This is what I'm going to be working on today, trying to get this thing all figured out. It works for as easy as I made it, but it's not the best setup. So I'm going to work on trying to make something new today for that. At the same time, I'm also going to get the distributor put back in, get that back timed again, get the throttle cable back, and then once I get a good shifter made, I'll get under there and start working on the transmission mount bracket, getting that set up, because that also is going to be a pain in the butt. For whatever reason, the whole engine likes to shift when you take the transmission in and out. I've never been able to figure it out. It just does. So we're going to work on getting that too. So first off, I'm going to start on making a new shifter. Alright, so I spent probably about 30 minutes. I got these two brackets made up. They're actually laying over there on the floor. Problem is, I ran into a new problem, and it's the shifter on the transmission, which you cannot see. Basically, the shifter comes up, angles back, comes back like this, and it faces this way, and I need it to face this way. But it's impossible for me to just turn it in there. So I'm trying to figure out what I need to do. I'm thinking I don't really want to do this because it really worries me if I mess it up. But I'm thinking I'm going to need to cut that about flat, where it's straight like this, so I can put an adapter from here to there. And I'm thinking that's what I'm going to have to do for this, and I'm not real too sure because these shifters are very hard to find, and I don't really want to mess this one up. But that might be my only option at this point, so... Well, I made the decision that I'm going to have to pull it back out, cut the shifter down as low as I can, and then just weld one of my pieces I have over here that are straight up onto it, so I can put a nut on there or something else on there that I'll be able to basically get a better grasp on it, because with it going off in that angle, it doesn't want to work right for me. So I don't want to do this. I really don't. This took me a long time to find this shifter, and I don't think I can find another one. But at the end of the day, I don't know what else to do. This is all I got at this point. I got to make it work. Here we go. So this is what I got so far, and I'm thinking this might work a lot better. So it's gonna go in like this, and now I have a full piece that faces straight at me instead of off at an angle or something. So we're gonna try this out. We're gonna see if this works any better. So it's been a couple days now, and all I can say is that my shifter idea is not working. It's not working how I planned it all. And let me just explain that what I did was I used a tie rod end from the RX7, okay? I figured, why not? Actually, it really was a why not kind of situation. I have it here. I needed one of these ends, so I figured I would just use one because they're pretty tight still. Like, I can't even move that one. So I just figured if I used one of the tie rod ends off of this, I could save myself some money, especially if it worked. Case in my scenario, it didn't work. The problem was that when you would shift it over to 5th gear, it would fly out. And it was just really weird. It wouldn't work. It wouldn't go in the 5th. It wouldn't go in reverse. I knew from that moment I was going to have to redo it. So what I did was I actually went and bought a brand new tie rod end. And this came from the recommendation of another guy who went through the same situation. And he used a 2003 Chevy Impala tie rod end. So I went out, got myself a 2003 Chevy Impala tie rod end, and then I also went out and got myself a piece of pipe that's 3/8. Got myself a piece of steel rod, and I also got myself some bolts that should work. Now we're gonna see what we can do today and see if we can get anything kind of set up. I'm also thinking that this little 90-degree bracket I have in here, thinking this might be too thin, or the sheet metal that's sitting here might be too thin, because that was moving around too. So I might need to strengthen this whole piece up, maybe weld something underneath this that'll make it stiff, or maybe run a piece from here to back here. But I'm gonna have to do something, because if I can't get a shifter set up for this and I can't do anything with what I got, then more than likely I'm just going to pull the transmission, sell both of them, and probably go with something different that's going to be a little more easier to work with for me. But this is what I got for working on today. My plan is to hopefully have a whole shifter done today, because I'm tired of messing with it, and once I get that shifter in, I can move on to other things, like maybe setting up this switch panel that I need to do, or doing new battery cables, because I do have the cable ends, or even a radiator setup, because these are big things I need to do before I can actually move on to some other things that need to get done. Custom designs were not working for me. No matter what I was doing, they weren't working. They were just too flimsy, they weren't lining up correctly. My fault. I don't know 100% what I was doing, so it was very difficult for me to get something that was working right. Now, with that being said, I had an idea, I went with it, and it actually ended up working really, really, really well. So, it's not 100% done. It still needs to have a couple things done to it, but this is what I got so far. As you can see, this is a shifter out of another car. And obviously it goes down to nothing with the rod going back into the back there. Now, with this being like this, there's nothing, it's not bolted down 100%. There's a bolt up here in the top corner, but there's nothing in the back here. But this one, it still is a little stiff, which means it probably needs a little bit of work to get it to work right. But it is shifting a lot better. The problem is this needs to be 100% lined up with that end. So the rod needs to be almost perfect. So, I mean, as soon as you hit it, it moves, which isn't helping. But if it stays right here, that's third, fourth. So as long as this rod, which you can see like that came loose already, as long as this stays pretty straight with this piece, it'll work. Alright, it feels really good right now because I finally got it figured out. In here, with this is my linkage set up on here, bolt going through. This is just a spacer to hold it, keep it from coming loose. So I had to tighten the shift tower down too, because that wasn't tightened down all the way. That helped a lot with the shifting. So with it set up, you know, here's neutral. It has spring detents on each side of the shift tower that bring it back to neutral easily. So over, first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and reverse. And now it's still a stock shifter. I just basically drilled a hole down through the center, and that's how it's sitting down in there. It feels really good for not correct and being a linkage and everything. Probably something that it could be done better is using spherical joints or Heim joints on each end, which is something that I've considered getting because I feel like it might work a little better. But as far as that, that's gonna work for now with this. I mean, that's pretty good, and it's bolted down pretty good too. So I don't know, I'm pretty okay with that. It's not amazing, but it'll work. And then all I have to do is get a shift ball or a big shifter for this, and then that'll be done. So after a long time of messing with that shifter and messing with the transmission to get in, as you guys saw in the time lapse, and how many times I've actually messed around with the shifter in general, it took me a lot. It really did. I'm doing something very outside of my comfort zone, and the problem was the transmission was different. This time it had a flywheel and clutch, last time it didn't. The shifter, the linkages kept getting bound up. That was messing me up big time too. So it took me a lot to actually get it in there. But now that it's in there, now that those two things are done, and I can move on to the next thing that needs to be done on the car, makes me feel pretty good. And I want you guys to know you can do it too. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, share it on Facebook, share it with your friends, share it with everybody. See you guys next time.